Guys, today we are going to be breaking down the brand new, hot off the press, 64K Etsy roadmap. And this is something that we had created. So this way here, we could kind of retrace our steps, but then also condense it down into 5 steps that we have used over the last 12 months and what we're going to continue to use moving forward. And these are the results that we were able to experience last year. I have a feeling, I have a hunch that we are going to be, do I say doubling it? I hope so. But we are definitely shooting for the 6-figure mark. Right now, we're working on some really cool things within my wife's business and her Etsy shop. So I'm really excited, and I think we have a really good chance. But things are just cranking along. And today what we're going to do is break down that 64K Etsy roadmap. Also, we are going to give you guys access to it if you want it. And this way here, you can have access to this this document, which is really, again, like I said, retracing and kind of going over what we were able to do over the last 12 months and then condensing it down into 5 steps. I'm also going to be giving a video walkthrough. It's a very, very good walkthrough of this roadmap. And the way that I did this was I shot the video, and then I had the girl that does all of our, little shout out to Lisa, not my Lisa, another Lisa that does all of our book creation. And she put together an amazing guide that goes along with this video. We also have something else that we're going to be covering called niche hacking or holiday hacking. That was the one. And that's going to be included as well. So a little free resource. And one of the reasons why we decided to do this at first, it wasn't going to be a free resource. It was a resource we were creating for our students, ones that have went through our Etsy product magic, which is now, by the way, called niche product magic. And that training, we wanted to create another resource that people could go through when they are choosing their niche and then when they are building out their product line and everything in between. So we wanted to give that to them as another resource, and we wanted to get it created for what's happening this Saturday, which is a workshop that we're doing, and it's specifically for the class, but it's also going to dive deep into our niche validation process because that's where a lot of people get stuck. And we wanted to add this to the first version, the Etsy product magic training. And now we've updated it. We're going to add in this live training, which will be recorded. So we're really having a live audience there so we can record it, do it in front of those people, get questions, all of that stuff. But then it's going to be added to the now called niche product training, the magic training. So that is what we're going to be doing. If you're here today and you are wanting to know, like, what are the basic steps, but also what are the steps that you would take if we were starting over from scratch, this is what this is going to be all about. If you have any questions while we're here live, go ahead and drop it in the comments. But I'm excited to share this with you guys. And we were, like I said, only going to release this to our students, but we decided to make this available for free for people that need it. Because that's really what our mission is for 2023, is to help more people really get started and really headed down the right path. So Chris, are we good to go? Is everything cranking along here in the comments and all of that stuff?
Yeah, we are rocking and rolling. We got a bunch of people hanging out with us on YouTube, letting us know that they can see and hear us. It sounds like everybody can see and hear us on the Facebook side of the world as well. Guys, as always, we're going to go through this. We're going to try to keep this as short, but also as useful as possible for all of you guys. So if you have any questions, make sure to ask them along the way, whether you're hanging out with us on Facebook, whether you're hanging out with us on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on the podcast and you have a question, send us an email. The point of these is to help you understand this process. And so anything that pops up along the way, make sure to let us know. We might not answer it right here live, on this live video or live on the podcast, but anything that pops up, if you guys are on with us live, I'll try to respond to you either on Facebook, on YouTube, or if you have a question after the fact, just send an email to support@brandcreators.com and we'll answer your questions that way as well. And Scott, I'm fired up. I know this roadmap is going to help a lot of people, especially if they're getting started, but it's also extremely useful for the people who have started, maybe have a shop and don't have this entire process down quite yet, to kind of understand. And I'm starting to see a lot of posts in the Rock Your Brand group about, I have a shop, I see all these people having success. What am I doing wrong? Coming back to this 5-step roadmap and figuring out where you may have taken a side road, right? Or maybe you stopped to take a look at the plants and the bushes and the trees and the birds and all of that, right? Coming back to this roadmap and using that to reorient your shop and figure out where you took a wrong turn is also a great use of this. So if you're in either of those spaces, right? If you're not super confident in your niche, you're not getting all of the sales that you want, or if you're just getting started, my suggestion would be get the download along with this, but definitely listen to the rest of this so that you can hear us walk you through the process as well.
Yeah, awesome. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to give out the link that you guys can go over to and grab this. That is going to be, let's see here. I don't have that ready, Chris. I thought I did, but I don't. But it is going to be brandcreators.com/64K, I believe, is that short link. You can go there, and maybe on the fly here, we can go ahead and create that so we have a banner that can pop up here if people are watching this on YouTube. But yes, it's brandcreators.com/64K. All right. And you can go there and grab a copy of that. All right. So with that being said, guys, I am going to jump in, and like this podcast is called Rock Your Brand, I'm going to get rocking. So this way here, we can get on with our day. Like Chris said, we're going to go through these 5 steps, but just understand that, there's more that we can discuss in each of these areas, but I'm going to give you the roadmap. So this way here, you can download it. You can go through it. You can also go through some of these exercises, which I think will be very, very helpful. All right. So, and Chris did pop that up on the screen. So thanks so much for doing that, Chris. All right. Are we ready, Chris? Give me a thumbs up if we're good. All right. Awesome. 2 thumbs up. Wow. I guess we're really ready. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the stream. And here we are. And first off, I just want to say thank you guys so much for voting on the cover. I put up 2 different cover options inside of the Facebook group. I did it in the Everbee group, and I also did it in the Rock Your Brand group. And it did have a strong vote for this cover. And if you guys are listening right now and you can't see the cover, that's why you should probably go to brandcreators.com/64K, and you can see the cover over there. But I'll just kind of describe it. It's myself and my wife, which I wasn't sure if I was going to put a picture of us on the cover, but I decided to, because that was her and I doing a nice little cheer. And by the way, my wife doesn't really drink beer. That was like a cider. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of, I wanted to kind of get that cheer in there, and she doesn't really drink either. And I really only have like maybe 1 beer a week, if that. But we did celebrate. And part of that was celebrating that she did a great job in the last year, and we did a little celebration. So I put that on the cover. So it's her and I, just having a little cheer. And the title, again, is the 64K Etsy Roadmap. And what we're doing in it is really going through the 5-step process that we use to generate 64K in 12 months working part-time. Yes, my wife does work on this because she enjoys it, but she doesn't do it full-time. And I'm saying full-time because she's not here working on it 40 to 50 hours a week. Is she working on it sometimes longer than you would say a part-timer? At times, but it's only because she likes to. Like this morning, she was on it, and she was basically just creating new designs. She enjoys that. So to her, it's not even work. It's kind of like she's crafting in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like work, but not really. But I say part-time because realistically, a couple hours a day, okay, is about all that she's been spending on it. So with that all being said, let's dig in, and let me get to the slide deck here, or the actual PDF that I'm sharing. So right here, this is the breakdown, and there is 5 steps. The very first one, and we're going to dig into each one of these. I'm just going to kind of go through these very, very quickly. And actually, you know what, Chris? I found today that I had a pen that I can use, and I wonder if this is going to work. Can you see that?
Well, see, now we're just getting fancy with it, but yes, I can.
Awesome. Look at that. I feel real fancy now. So, okay. So step number 1, look at that. I'm going to circle it. Step number 1 is really doing the research. Okay. The research is huge. All right. And that's the very, very first thing that we're doing here. So in this here, we're trying to find a good niche. Okay. And what we're doing here is we're really exploring not just what is a good niche, but what is a niche that we could see ourselves building a business around. It's one of the things that we talk about in our little 3 triangle diagram of the success peaks, in a sense, where we're looking at, is there something that we're passionate about? And is there something that we're interested in, passionate, interested, whichever? And from there, is it something that we could see that we would be excited about working on? Because, be quite honest with you guys, as you get doing this, if you don't start seeing sales, you start to lose a little bit of steam. If it's something that you're interested in, it doesn't feel like it's work, so you keep at it. And that's the reason why we're doing this. But that's really what we're going to be talking about there. And that's the very first thing that we did, is we just looked at what were the niches that we could go into, and then found one, validated it, and then went on to step number 2, which is creating and launching multiple products. Launching multiple products, and really products that can serve the one niche. So the one thing that I didn't say right here in step 1 is we are looking for one niche. Okay. Look at that. I'm even going to draw a number 1. Look at that. Can I do this? Wow. This is real fancy. Kind of like that. Right. So that's what we're looking for, though. We're looking for one niche. And then from there, we're moving on to, okay, once we find that niche, we validate it, we're creating and launching multiple products. We're creating a product line. That's what we're doing there. Step number 3, again, I'm going to go through these in detail, guys, so don't worry. And you're going to be able to download this if you want to. But basically, in step 3, we're going to be starting to look at Etsy traffic. And the reason why we are doing this in step 3, as far as getting traffic through Etsy ads, is because this is what we did. Okay. Again, these are all the steps that we did, but it's also what we would do if we were to repeat this again. In step 3 is getting traffic as soon as possible. Like, absolutely, as soon as possible. We want to get traffic because that there will help with every side of the business. It'll help with reviews. It'll help with getting our store seasoned. It'll help us get in good standings with Etsy. It will help us get feedback. It'll help us do all of those things. So this way here, we can kind of accelerate the time that it takes to really get ramping things up. So that is step number 3. Step number 4 is building internal and external email lists. And that's a big one. It's a big one. And that's really, really helped us. Actually, with our external email list, side note, we just did a 7-day promotion as part of our Cha-Ching challenge. So we actually went along with our students and did it. And with that, in 7 days, we generated $914 and some change from running that 7-day Cha-Ching promotion. And really, that was done through email as one of our traffic sources. So that's why we build internal and external email lists. Really, really important. And then step 5 is creating an amazing customer experience, which, again, a lot of people overlook this. They don't think it's that important. Let me just tell you right now, it's extremely important, because what it's going to do is it's going to build customer loyalty, which people don't realize is a huge deal. It's also going to get people to tell other people about your shop. It's also going to get you good feedback, which is going to help your score on Etsy. It's going to get you reviews, right? All of those things. It's going to help, and so much more. So that's why we're focusing on that. So those are the 5 pillars, if you will. And the other thing that I did cover in here, which we kind of stumbled on this past year, and we kind of wanted to plan it out 12 months in advance. I'm going to give you that, the holiday hacking. Inside of this guide, there's actually a calendar in here and everything, and some of the holidays that we look for, but really how you can holiday hack, and always planning like at least 60 to 90 days out. And once you do this, they're there for this year and next year and the year after, which is really, really cool. All right. So moving on to the first step in more detail. Inside of this step 1, and if you guys are not watching this, it's actually a workbook where a worksheet where you can actually download. This is like a workbook where you can go through this. So the very first thing that we have here, and what I would do again, is I'm going to sit down and I am going to brainstorm. Okay. And this is exactly how we found this niche that we're talking about, and that we used and that we're continuing to build out, is we sat down and we brainstormed. What are we interested in? Okay. We can also, and I've done this before, look around. What are family and friends interested in. Same idea. So we're brainstorming here. Now, this here's a worksheet. If you're still struggling with niche validation, this is something that I would definitely go through. The validation piece is then when we're going to prove to ourselves that there's enough demand. All right. And once again, I show you inside of here kind of our process at a high level, but you can still at least go through that process. So that's step number 2 is the validation in step 1. So there's step 1, which is research and choosing a good niche. In that, there's brainstorming to discover niches, and then from there, validating them that there's enough demand. Those are the 2 pieces. So Chris, before I move on to step 2, is there anything that we need to address before I move on?
The one thing I did want to bring up, Scott, and you touched on this a minute ago, is finding these niches. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll find a niche and you'll see that there's a lot of demand there. And there's kind of this gut feeling to say, I'm just going to go over here. And you mentioned a couple minutes ago, these really should be something you're at least passively interested in. I think there's 2 main reasons for that, right? The first is it's going to actually help you when it comes to the product creation process, because you actually care about the group of people and you are actually invested and still learning some things about this. So you're going to pick up on the kitschy phrases. You're going to be interested in it that way. The other thing is, and this is really where you started to get into this, was it does help prevent burnout, right? You help to avoid burnout and overwhelm. You are actually interested in the thing. You're getting rewarded for the research that you're doing on your own, for your interactions in the community in terms of dollars from sales on Etsy. So even if there's a super high dollar, high volume niche that happens to come up, right? Even if it's on your touch list or something like that, and you aren't personally interested in it at all, my suggestion would be keep working your way down your ideas list to find one that you do care about, because it's going to be extremely important long-term to help you avoid a lot of the things that slow people down, right? And you used to show, when we used to do like live classes weekly, right? You used to show this little image, and I wish we had it right now, of like a little cartoon miner, right? Stopping right before they got to the gold. Yeah. And that's usually what happens, right? We see a lot of people, they'll put up some designs, they'll be actually interested in the niche a little bit, and then they get distracted and they get interested in something else. And so then they go start doing research there. You want this to be something you're interested in, so you don't stop just short of where that gold is in that market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I do want to take a second here and you know, kind of ask, you know, everyone that's watching or listening, do you currently feel like you have a specific niche that you are targeting and that you're focused on? I'm just curious. I'd like to see a raise of hands. If we were in a classroom, this is exactly what I'd be doing, is like, do you currently right now feel confident that you have a niche that you are building out? So if you guys could drop that in the comments, that would be awesome. And I want to give a shout out to Sandra, who said, that was very sweet to do a celebration, and it's nice to put a face to your wife. So yes, that is my beautiful wife, Lisa, of almost 28 years, which is insane. So yes, that's what I would like you guys to do. The other thing that I'm going to do here, a little shameless plug for a second. We are doing another live training this Saturday. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, it probably would have already passed. But the good thing is, the reason why we're doing this live training, it's a live niche validation training. We're doing it actually to add to our niche product magic training. All right. Which, if some of you had went through the Etsy product magic, we are rebranding that, renaming it. And it's going to be the niche product magic workshop moving forward. And one of the reasons is because we've realized that when you hear Etsy product magic, you think of products, but there's actually a bigger piece there. And that is the niche part. The niche really comes first, then the products come, and that's what makes the magic. So that's kind of why we're doing that. But we are going to be doing this live. If you have not yet went through that training and you want to join us live, or if you want to go through that training, because we're going to record it in front of a live audience, but then we're going to add it to that class, you can head on over to brandcreators.com/magic, and you can get the details. And by the way, it's less than a dinner out with your significant other. I can promise you that. Okay. So check it out. One of the reasons why we're doing that is because we want to get it in as many people's hands as possible, because we know it's that valuable. So Chris, you had something.
Two things. What time on Saturday?
Yeah,
had
we're
a couple
doing it at
people ask in the
12
chat.
p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. But again, if you can't make it, or if you went through the Etsy Product Magic, you're getting access to that absolutely free at no charge. And we're also going to do a bonus live Q&A session at the end, but also we're going to add another day. So we're going to add that in there as well. So we made a commitment at the beginning of this year, Chris, that we were going to help more people this year. We're doubling down on Etsy ourselves, and we're going to help more people do the same. And we're going to live up to that. And that's why we're going to be adding more to this training, because we feel like we needed to add that one piece to make it that much better, to really address that problem that a lot of people face.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's move on to step 2. So let me share my screen one more time. Here we go. And there we are. Okay, so let's get into step 2, which is, let's see, where are we here? Let's see. We had step 1, step 2. Okay, so that was into the. Actually, I went back here. This is actually showing you Everbee and the tool and everything, so you can kind of see what we're doing there inside the document. So you can check that out inside of there as well. And yes, Everbee is the tool that we're using. And once again, you can find that at brandcreators.com/Everbee if you're interested. But all of that information is in the guide as well. All right, so step 2. Creating and launching multiple products, and we call this a product line. And the reason why is, and I want you guys to just think about this, and to some of you, it may seem like I'm repeating myself. I am, because it's that important. And you're going to hear me repeat this over and over and over again, because once you have the first part done, right, we've established what niche we are targeting. Now we have to figure out what products are we going to be selling them. And part of the process in step 1 in the validation piece is finding products, but it doesn't mean we're going to create those products. We're just using those as demand. But then what we need to do is start thinking about the customer. And you can see on this diagram, we have a customer, and then I have 4 products that I'm going to serve to that customer. Well, wouldn't you rather be able to sell more than one thing to that customer? I mean, I think we all would, because it's easier, right? It's easier to make more on a sale if you can increase the cart value. How do you do that? You create product lines. All right. So this is way different than a lot of people are teaching out there, where they're just chasing one product or a trend, trying to find the next hot thing and then just chasing that. We're not doing that. We don't want to do that. We're never going to do that. This is what we do. So our main goal is always just, how can we create more products for that same customer? Even though that same customer might not buy them all, it's going to definitely attract more people within our market. All right. So what we do, and again, I'm not going to go through this entire document. You guys can download it at brandcreators.com/64K. And what we're doing here is we're going to come up with product lines that are going to serve that customer by doing some research. And we're going to use Etsy to do the research. And we can use a tool like Everbee. But what we want to do is really just get a whole list of products, potential products that we could potentially offer. Okay. Now, we're not going to copy them if they're design related or anything like that. We're not going to copy them. We're going to draw inspiration from them. And then from there, what we're going to do is, we're not just going to launch t-shirts and mugs and things like that. We're going to go after other products, like maybe blankets or pillows, or maybe it will be a candle. They make candles with, the glass candles we can put stuff on. We have dish towels. There's all different things that we can put these items on, or the designs on, to really broaden out our product line. And that's what we're doing in step 2, is really going through and building out the product line. So this here, going through this inside the document, will help you kind of get that out and also get going in that process. But that is what we're doing in step 2. So step 1, finding and validating the niche. Step 2 is building out the product line. All right. Chris, before we move on to step 3, anything we need to discuss before we move on?
2 things with this, right? There's these like product-based shops, which we've talked about in the past, Scott. You and I refer to them as like garage sales, or even if they are focused around a single product type, like a water bottle store or a t-shirt store or something like that. It's very hard with that type of a store to sell more than one thing to the same person. Why are we so keen on that? Well, depending on who you ask, right? Selling a product or finding a new customer generally costs 5 or more times the amount that it costs you to sell something to an existing customer. So why wouldn't we want to make more money from the existing people, right? Additionally, with something like a niche focused store, which is what we're talking about, you're likely to get a lot of repeat customers to begin with. So why don't we just make it easier on ourselves and create a full product line that would be something that is interesting to them, right? It makes our lives as the Etsy seller, right? Or however we want to classify that, right? As the business owner selling through Etsy, it makes our lives a lot easier. One, it increases the number of sales. Two, it decreases the necessity to have to worry about markets being too competitive, right? Because once we carve out our niche, yes, we're going to be getting new customers naturally, but we're also going to be selling more to the existing people. So we're going to be making a lot more than it looks like to people on the outside. And three, going back to the launching of products, right? And the product creation thing, just like having passion about the niche helps you in the product creation side of this. Having a niche allows you to create the product line, and it makes the actual product creation substantially easier. Why? Because I can go into a Facebook group of people who love floppy cats. I don't know, ragdoll cats, I guess is the breed or like the type of cat that I'm looking for. I like floppy cats better. That likes floppy cats, and look at the different things that they're saying, looking at the things that they're talking about, looking at the different products, and get ideas and inspiration that way, as opposed to having to trend chase, which we've talked about in the past as being such a terrible idea for so many reasons, right? It makes the product creation of this easier, and it creates that flywheel, because through creating more products, the people who are interested in our stuff are going to buy them. That then gives us more inspiration to go make and do more products, right? And so it makes the flywheel of product creation and the flywheel of the mental I'm making sales thing substantially easier when we're in a niche. And it allows us to create that full line of products that's going to appeal to ragdoll cat owners or whatever our niche is.
Yeah, no, it makes it so much easier. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, when you know who you are targeting, way easier. I mean, my wife doesn't have to think about who she's targeting. She knows. So she just is always thinking along the lines of like, how do I serve this niche, or how do I find maybe some, shoulder niches, as we call them, sub niches? Like, how do you kind of broaden it out? And we've done some videos on that. We've done a live, I believe, and we've also done, or I did a niche stacking video, which you should definitely check out if you're on the YouTube channel, and that'll help you out with that.
One thing with this, and I think Sandra had asked a question, Scott, that I think is a perfect example of this, right? Like, how do you create items for holidays in your niche if there's not anything that's existing that we can use as design inspiration? Well, if we are in the ragdoll cat niche, right, we don't have to get super creative. We can put a ragdoll cat cartoon, like a cartoon of a ragdoll cat in a Santa hat. It doesn't have to be rocket surgery, right?
Right.
But if we're not in that niche, right, then we can't start with ragdoll cats. What's a silly thing I can do with a ragdoll cat for Valentine's Day, right? But if we are in that niche, then looking at what we're creating for the holidays becomes a lot easier, just like it does throughout the rest of the year, right? Whether it's a holiday product or an evergreen product, we can start with the basis of, is there a joke about a ragdoll cat? Should I just use an image of a ragdoll cat, right? We have 4 or 5 jumping off points that we can then use to create products for any situation. And it makes creating that product line substantially easier.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to move on. Got a lot of comments coming in. So guys, do me a favor. This is when I'm going to say this. If you are getting value from this live stream, and you'd like us to keep doing these, do me a favor and leave a comment or smash that like button or share it. Do whatever you can to give it a little bit of love. It actually gives us a little energy to give back. And also it will share it with more people because, well, let's face it, YouTube and maybe Facebook, wherever you're watching this, they tend to like it when people give it a little bit of love. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. So if you could smash that like button, we'd truly appreciate it. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling. Let's get back into it. And I think we are on step number 3, which is right here. Getting traffic by using Etsy ads. And this is another thing that a lot of people are so afraid to do. They're like, well, I'll do that once I get everything perfect. I'm going to wait for SEO. I'm here to tell you guys that you can have the best SEO in the world, but if you have competition, any competition, and they've already had sales, they're probably going to outrank you. And it's going to be very hard to outrank them unless you get what? Sales. How do you get sales? How do you get above them? You have to advertise. I'm sorry, you have to. Okay. Now, again, I'm just walking through our steps. You can do as you want, but this is exactly what we do and what we're currently doing. Literally spending $5 a day. Still, right now, that's what we're doing. And you can see here in this screenshot that I shared inside the guide, this was just one example. We spent $150, $5 a day. Okay. generated $1,621.95. We had 49 orders, 404 clicks, and 26,000 views. Now, some people would look at that, they would divide it out and they'd go, okay, how much did we spend per sale? And you probably should do that. Let's say it was $2. You paid $2 to get a sale. Let's just say that that was the number. I don't know. I didn't do the math. It's not, but let's just say. Well, I wouldn't look at it like I just ate into my profit. I would look at it as I just gained a customer that can buy more of my stuff because why? Because I'm creating a product line. See what I'm saying? So that's why when we're going through this process, we're thinking about it differently than just someone that's like, how do I get a sale? How do I get a sale? How do I get a sale? You do it by bringing more products to those people. And if you advertise, it's going to help your SEO because if you are well optimized, which you should be, okay, doing your basic stuff, your title, you're going to have great images. So you get good click-throughs, you have good descriptions, you have good tags, you have all that stuff in place. Well, now when we add sales to the equation, now we're talking. And then the other thing that you could probably do in this situation, this is what I would do, is I would look at how many sales are my competitors making. So if they're making 3 sales a day, then I know that I need to match that in order to compete with them. That's an old Amazon trick, by the way, that we used to do when we were doing private label selling on Amazon. Okay, you want to match what the best sellers are doing in order to be able to compete with them and outrank them organically. But we're going to, in the beginning, we're going to add a little bit of fuel, a little bit of gas by pouring a little bit of money on it. And some people will be like, well, it's $5 a day, Scott. I guarantee you're probably spending $5 a day somewhere in your life right now. That's probably not the best use of that $5. Cappuccino, Frappuccino, you get where I'm saying. Maybe a beer, like we could probably cut one of them out and probably spend some money on some ads, and it will give you the the ability to be able to create that listing or those products that can be seen by more people. All right. So that's the advertising piece. Before we jump into step 4, Chris, anything you want to talk on that? I know you like talking about ads and all that stuff.
So Scott, on a scale from 1 being someone who doesn't know how to use a computer to David Ogilvy, how good would you say you are at running ads?
I'm very, very basic as running ads. And honestly, Etsy doesn't let you be very, very, how do I want to say it? Like, very good or very creative with ads. Like you don't have to have like special ad copy and you don't have to have special images. Now, with that being said, that's why when you're thinking about like your title and your images and stuff like that, that is going to be your ad. So you might want to make sure that those are like spot on to begin with anyway. But I would say, I mean, I'm a very, very basic ads guy. You know what I mean?
So like on if David Ogilvy is a 10, yeah, right, who's known as the best copywriter of all time, and someone who's never turned on a computer is a 1, you're what, like a 3, a 4?
I was going to say a 3 or a 4. Yeah.
A 3 or 4. Okay. And I think that's fair. And that's the point that I want to make, right? Like if we were doing something really complex, you probably would call me to set these ads up, yep, right? Just because I've done a lot more of it than you have, right? Yep. But with something like this, it's easy enough to set up. And I think where people get tripped up with this is that they, are a little bit afraid to invest in the business, right? Because they're not sure what that return on investment is going to be. And a lot of people have gotten burned in the past running a Facebook ad or running ads on Amazon where it's really complex or doing something else, right? And they're afraid to invest that $5 a day. But if you take a look at the return on ad spend, right, from somebody who is a self-professed 3, right? No offense. A self-professed 3 on that 1 to 10 ads complexity scale, right? You are getting just under an 11-to-1 return on investment. I'm not going to do the actual math. I'm not a math guy. I can do business math. It's somewhere between 10 and 11, right, to 1. What in the marketing world is considered essentially infinity return on investment, right? Like infinitely scalable, somewhere between 5 and 6 to 1, right? So within Etsy ads, for every $1 you're putting in, you're getting almost $11 back out for that screenshot. And granted, it's not always going to be like that, right? It changes from month to month. It changes with the listings that we have up there, but it's always a great return on investment somewhere along those lines, right? Even if you go through this and you say, okay, but how much did you make? Scott, what is our average margin?
Average is around 35 to 40. 5%, I would say. I mean, we have some products that are even a hair higher than the 45, but then some are right on the cusp of like 35. So I would say average, let's call it like 38 to 40.
And so let's just use the 38 number, right? So that it was just over $1,600. Let's round down the revenue, right? Yep. $1,600 times 38%, according to my fancy calculator inside of Google Chrome, is $608 minus $150 in ad spend, which means at the very least, right on the low side of our profit, we got paid $458 by Etsy to run those ads. What does that give us? Well, they handed us $458, right? But in addition to that, we are now growing those listings. Why? Because we are driving sales and we are driving traffic to those listings. And to your point, Scott, right? If Etsy's goal is to always serve the listing that is going to result in the sale, which logically it is, right? If Etsy's goal is to create sales, they don't care really about your 20-cent listing fee, right? What they're after is the percentage that they take when you make a sale. So anytime somebody types something into the Etsy search, it's to their benefit to show the listing that's most likely to result in the sale, right? Makes sense. So if somebody is making 3 sales a day and we're making 1 sale a day, and we both rank for the same keywords, why would they ever put us in front of them, right? How can we get around that? Well, Etsy ads is a really easy way, right? Maybe we're only getting 1 a day from organic, and we know to be in the first position, we have to get 3 or 4 a day. Well, we turn on Etsy ads and we can start to pick up those extra sales. And then guess what's going to happen? Even if we turned those ads off, right, after a fixed amount of time, which you shouldn't do as long as the ads are working, right? If Etsy's handing you money, why would you say, no, stop giving me money, right? But even if you did do that, you would still end up with a long-term benefit in addition to that $458 or whatever that number was, right? So we're getting paid to get a long-term benefit. This is how we have to think about this. And yes, I understand that for a lot of people starting this business, it feels like a lot of money, but I guarantee you your cable bill is more than $150 a month if you live in the US, right? Between internet and TV. Like totally. I had a heart attack when I was home at Christmas and I saw what my parents pay for cable. Now, granted, their cell phone is on the same bill, but it was like several $100s. And I was like, do you even watch TV or do you just watch Netflix? Like we could save this $150. And to your point, Scott, it's the cost of a cup of coffee or an energy drink or like 2 LaCroix, right? Over the course of a day. And oh, by the way, they're giving you 4 times that amount or, 3 and change times that amount back in profit at the end of the month. If you gave me $5 every day and I handed you $458 at the end of the month, would you not do that? Yeah, I think you would, right? You'd be insane not to. And I understand it's not going to work for every single product, but we have to remember that this is working over the course of the month, right? And we're taking a look at what's working and what's not. And so I want people to try to get over that mental hurdle of the $5 a day and see the return that it brings, right? They gave us $458 up front, but now in addition to that, they're giving us better placement. Why? Because we're getting more sales and we're getting more traffic, and that's going to lead to even more money down the road. So we got that big return on investment right up front, but we also get the long-term return on investment. And that's something I think a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah, no, well said, man. And you guys might be able to tell that Chris and I get excited about this stuff. I had a guy the other day on YouTube told me that I was shouting. It's when I get excited. And Chris, what did you say that I should have commented back?
Turn your volume down. You have a slider, right? And if we get excited, somebody called me a comic the other day, like a cartoon, right? I take that as a compliment. I'm animated. This stuff fires me up. And it drives me nuts, Scott, that people don't see this, because we see this in our business. We see what happens when people actually implement this stuff. And it's our job to kind of yell at you guys and get you out of it. And so if we're not excited, we're not animated about it, you're not going to listen to it. If I just sat here and said, yeah, Scott, what was your return on investment there? It looks like 10 to 1. I mean, that sounds pretty cool. A good return on investment. You wouldn't be paying attention, right? We would have lost you right away. And so by us getting fired up about this, it's not just because we want you to pay attention. It's because this stuff actually drives us nutty when we see it in the real world. And we want you to know that this is something you can do in your business. And if you're not, you are literally leaving upfront and long-term money on the table.
Yeah. Karen says, she was laughing with her tears. Turn your volume down. All right, cool. Yes, and someone had asked, is this going to be recorded? Yes, hopefully this is being recorded because this is streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. So hopefully it is being recorded. Well over 100 people that are live right now, actually 111 to be exact at this time, which is phenomenal. So guys, one last little call to action here. If you guys could do me a quick favor and smash the like button if you're getting value up to this point, because that will help us get it out to more people. And we would really appreciate that because our goal for 2023 is to help more people. That is our goal. All right, cool. So let's keep rocking and rolling here. We got more to cover. And yes, we're going to be answering some questions, guys. And let me know in the comments as well. Are you currently running ads at all on your Etsy shop? If you have an Etsy shop right now, currently what you are, and also maybe what you're currently spending. I would really like to know what that is. All right, cool. So let's move on. And guys, if you're just tuning in, if you're just coming on board here for the live stream, I'm going through our 64K Etsy roadmap that we just released. You can have access to it. There's going to be a link that you can see. It's brandcreators.com/64K, totally free. You're also going to get a video walking through that. So you can totally get this for free. And it's a workbook, basically. It's a roadmap, but it's a workbook that you can work through. That's what it was designed for. All right. Step 4. This is huge. This is like, my gosh, if I could just get people, this is when I start yelling or start really, shouting from the rooftop. Building your internal and external email lists. And really, the external is massive, by the way, but the internal side is also a massive opportunity. There's so many things that so let's go back to the Etsy ads for a minute. When we're driving people to a product, let's say that they don't buy the product, but they favorite the product. We can send an email to those people. Let's say, for example, they come into our shop from that Etsy ad. They don't buy that product. They favorite our shop. Well, now the cool thing is we've kind of built an internal list in a sense within Etsy that Etsy will then send them a notification. Did you know that? It's pretty crazy. So there's a lot of things that happen when we bring someone in our store. And I always like to use this analogy. Imagine you're walking into your brick and mortar shop. You hear that little ding, ding, the little bell that you hear when you walk into a store. And then all of a sudden you perk up and you're like, hi, how are you doing today? What can I help you with? And then as they come in your store is all about whatever your niche is about, right? If it's bass fishing, if it's knitting, like whatever it is, right? And everything is in there to help serve that one customer because they came in your store. That's kind of what you're thinking about when you're bringing people in with the Etsy ads. Well, now when we have someone coming in, we also want to be able to have those people to be able to be notified in the future. And a lot of times when they favorite something or they might add it to the cart, but they don't buy it yet, we can do a lot of cool things when that's happening. The other side of this here, and no one talks about this, is your external email list. And this is actually built from, and recently, Aweber and Etsy kind of came together and created an integration. And Etsy is actually saying that they want us to build an email list so we can send out promotions. So it's actually in their documentation. You can go into your dashboard, go into integrations, and then just look up, go into Aweber, and then read it for yourself. You make the decision. But what we're doing here is we're able to now collect those emails from our customers and then build that list, which is huge. But the other thing that we do is we also build an external list by using giveaways, where we'll take a bundle of our products and then we'll advertise them. And once again, we do advertise on Facebook, like $5. And that's what we do. Works really good. So when we're able to do that, we can send out either weekly emails or maybe a few emails a week, or if you're running a promotion. And we recently just did this, and we were able to grab $914 in sales from running a little promotion using email and some of our other assets that we built inside of our Etsy shop. So that's what you're doing here in step 4, is really being able to have an audience of some kind of people that are interested in what you have to offer. And then you're able to notify them or email those people. Now think about this for a second. If you're just riding a trend of a product and you really don't have anything else to sell them, but someone's going to come into your shop, are they going to like your shop, like favorite it? Are they going to favorite that shop so they want to get notified later? Are you going to be able to build an email list from those people? Like, let's say someone buys something are you going to be able to sell them something else? Well, if you don't create products for that specific niche, you're not going to be able to. So that's the big downfall of just having a garage sale type site or a general store. So that's why we always want to build inside of a niche so we can do things like the internal and external email list stuff. And that's part of our strategy. Like if we're starting over again, we're walking through these steps. Step 4, major step. And we're doing that definitely. Chris, anything on that before we move on to step 5?
Just another 30-second rant about return on investment, right? And we're not even talking about like the crazy external stuff that we can do here, but in terms of marketing efforts for e-commerce businesses, if you sell on Etsy, you have an e-commerce business, right? Whether you have your own website apart from this or not, right? We just talked about how like 5-to-1 return on investment is considered to be like infinitely scalable, right? Email marketing and starting to understand and build your email list is hands down the highest rated return on investment marketing activity for e-commerce businesses every single year. Why? Because on average, meaning you're doing with it, right? You're like, maybe I sent an email this month. You're just the average email person, not a super email ninja, right? $36 for every dollar you invest into it. And that includes like the dollars that come off in promotional codes and stuff. So if you're not doing this, again, you're literally just leaving money on the table. But in addition to the money that you're leaving on the table, you're leaving views on the table, right? Even if they don't come to the store and buy your new product, they're going to come and see it. And what is the lifeblood of an Etsy listing? Views and sales, right? We have to get views before we can get sales, but both of those things are a positive indicator to Etsy that people actually care about this. So even if you spend the time to set this up and nobody buys anything, you still get a long-term benefit. But chances are, if you set this up, you're going to see a huge return on that investment. And again, average for every dollar you're investing into that, you're getting $36 back. No reason not to do it.
No, totally. Love it. Totally worth the rant. All right, cool. And I see a bunch of people in here chiming in, and some people are saying they are running ads. A couple people are saying they're going to start running ads. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that should be looked into if you're not already running ads. And we will answer some questions here at the end. We're almost there, by the way, guys. And again, another little reminder, if you want the roadmap that I'm sharing here, if you're listening to this on the podcast and you can't see it, go to brandcreators.com/64K, and you'll be able to download that. And there's a video that walks you through it. So this way here kind of brings everything together. So definitely do that. And like I said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Be more than happy to answer them for you. All right, so let's move on to step 5 as I navigate to my slides here. All right, so, and there's your internal your external emails. If you go into your integrations, you'll see Aweber, and then just click on that, and then you'll be able to see all the details on that and what Etsy says, how they would like you to use email. All right, so step 5, and this one here is not sexy at all. It's boring. It's not sexy. And that is creating an amazing customer experience. Think about Zappos for a minute. They built their, I don't know if it was $1 billion business, but it was damn near it. All on the back of customer service. You could send in shoes, or you could send shoes to someone if you could send 2 pair, 3 pair. And if they didn't fit you, you send the other ones back. No questions asked, right? They won on customer experience and customer support. Think about Amazon. What did they do? Basically, you got nothing to worry about. You buy through us, you want to send it back, send it back. You know, we don't care, right? So customer experience and really having amazing customer support is critical. The other thing that this will do, okay, is it will allow you to get more feedback, which then will also give you a seller score or a seller star badge, which, by the way, I just noticed the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, you can now search as a user of someone or customer of Etsy. You can actually go into the filters, and now there's a brand new, it'll even say new at the time of this recording. You can search by star sellers. So now they've even put that into their search. So if you don't believe me, go into your search. Okay, like you're going to search for something, go into filters, and then look and see that you can now search for star sellers. So all you want to do is just look at star sellers. I remember back in the day on Alibaba, when I was buying products for or sourcing products, you could source by people that had like a gold badge I would only sort by those those providers, because I wanted to make sure that they've already been vetted. It's the same thing that we're doing here on Etsy now. So the star seller badge is pretty important. And actually now it seems even more important if people are going to be able to search using that. So I've got a bunch of things here that we can, that we can go through as far as customer service, experience, and all that stuff. But I pretty much put it inside of this doc. I also go through it in that video. But let's just kind of recap here real quick and go through the Etsy roadmap checklist. Again, if we were to start this thing from scratch and start over, number one, brainstorm niche ideas, validate that there's demand for the niche on Etsy, create a product line that serves the customers in that niche, turn on Etsy ads, set up internal Etsy emails, integrate external emails, and create an amazing customer experience. Like, that is the roadmap. Okay. And if you focus on that, man, I'm telling you, it becomes easier because you don't have to think about chasing those trendy products or hot products. You don't have to worry about, like, what's the hot niche this month? You don't have to worry about any of that. All you need to do is worry about creating more products for your customer and then marketing to those people and then making sure that they have an amazing customer experience. I mean, doesn't that sound easier? Can I get a yes in the comments if that sounds better than chasing trendy products and hot products and just being a one-off? Maybe you hit a home run, maybe you hit a single, a double. Wouldn't you rather do that? Show of hands in the comments, please. All right. We do have one bonus little 3-step thing here, and that is our holiday hacking. I'll briefly go through that, but once again, I would download this. So this way here you have it, but I'll go through it here in a second. Before we do, Chris, anything you wanted to say on that before we move on?
Man, it's funny that we call this a roadmap, Scott. This is 2023. I bet a bunch of people who are listening right now have never even opened a map, like a physical map. But this is the GPS, right? This is the guide to get you there. And I think having this makes this process so much easier for people because you don't have to go guess, right? You're saying, what am I doing right now? Okay, did I pick my niche? Yes, check that off. Let's move on to the next thing. Do I have a product line that people can have? And we have some people in the chat saying, yeah, I haven't moved on to step 3 yet because I don't have enough products. And that's a conversation that we can have, right? But at least you know where you are in the roadmap. And you know what the goals are and what you're going to be doing next. And I think that's super critical for people. And if you're looking for like a step-by-step thing, or you just want a little bit of help, the workbook side of this is going to be the thing that's one of the most useful things. And by the way, it's absolutely free over at brandcreators.com/64K. And it's funny because I went through this and back engineered some of the niches that we have and some of the things that we've done. And it turns out that, yeah, we do follow this closely ourselves, right? Even if we don't do it by writing it down in this way, these didn't come out of nowhere, right? These 5 steps plus the holiday hacking strategy didn't come out of nowhere. This is literally what we're doing with the Etsy shops that we have, with the people that we work with. And it's the process that we teach because it actually works and it's going to get you where you want to go. Yeah,
100%. So, okay, let's dig in. We're going to wrap this up here. I want to wrap up this section here so we can get into some Q&A because I know that there's some questions here that we have. But like Chris said, I mean, just download the roadmap. This roadmap was initially created for our students that are going through or that went through the Etsy Product Magic, which is now called the Niche Product Magic training. And we're going to be adding another more resources to it, but this was one of the resources that we were creating for it. We're giving it away now. So this way here, you can have access to it, even if you aren't one of our students. And to be quite honest with you, hopefully one day you become one of our students. We'd love to help you. We'd love to work side by side. So yes, it's a gesture of goodwill where we would love to give it to you. So this way here, you can get some movement, some momentum. And then from there, who knows, maybe one day you could take one of our classes and we can help you grow your Etsy brand. All right. So let's get into it and let's wrap this baby up. All right. So very, very quickly, bonus, the holiday hacking 3-step process. So step number 1, and this is something that we've kind of laid out internally within our own brand. And, our business partner, Debbie, has done the same. It's where you're really planning. So step 1 is planning ahead. So taking the time, like this should be like scheduled in your allotted time. If you have an hour, take an hour and do this, right? Step 1 is planning. Planning, I think, is so underutilized. Like if you can sit down and take brain width your bandwidth on your time, being able to go, okay, let me just sit down and plan out this, and then all I got to do now is execute it. So planning is critical. So part of this, though, is step 2 is doing the research. All right. So we need to look and see what is the 60 and 90 day little sprints that are coming up that are going to be promotions that we could potentially do around holidays or events, things that are happening that people are known to buy. I literally had one of our students the other day that said Mother's Day, Father's Day is 2 of their biggest days or events, holidays that they are doing the most in sales. Okay. More than Christmas. So people think that it's just fourth quarter. No, it's not, depending on your niche. So figuring that out, but then also being able to map that out. So this way here, you can execute that for every single event, holiday, anytime that you can create either unique products for those occasions, or at least know that you're going to be promoting during that. But really being able to create those products that possibly could be purchased and doing that 60 to 90 days before the actual event. So researching is key. Step 3 is then design. You have to then get your designs together from your research, seeing what is selling, what kind of styles are selling, like what people are buying, maybe even colors, whatever it is. And then from there, starting to create and design. So this way here, we can put those listings up 60 to 90 days before the actual event. And when you do that, then it gives your SEO time, right? It gets you indexed quicker than other people that are doing it last minute. All right. So that's the holiday hacking. And then if you look here, I have a full calendar that kind of gives you something that you can do for each and every one of these months. The only ones that we don't have is August and September, but I'm sure that there's something there that we can do as a promotion, and it will depend on your niche. So take this, fill it out, go through this, treat it as a workbook. I want you to print this out if you get it, because this will make it more real. You can take it, you can have it bound, you can staple it, whatever you want to do, and literally write in it. And then make this your roadmap, because this is exactly what we are doing. And it's what we did to get to where we are today. So hopefully this will help you. And then, like I said, I've got other little things here in the workbook that you can use as far as to write things in and all of that stuff. So definitely do that. And then the thing I would say here at the very end, and we put this in the guide as well, if you need help choosing a niche and finding your products, take our niche product magic workshop. Like literally, we made it so affordable, like less than a dinner out with you and your significant other. Like seriously, depending on where you go. Like even I think if you went to like a fast food restaurant nowadays, but just go through this. And when you go through this, it's going to walk through exactly how we are finding, but then validating. And we spend a lot of time on the validation piece. What we've also decided to do is we're recording a dedicated niche discovery / validation session. We're doing it actually this Saturday, but it's going to be recorded. We're doing it because we wanted to record a session, a lesson to add to the niche product magic workshop. But we decided to do it in front of a live audience. So if you want to attend the live and you're listening to this before January 28th, then go to brandcreators.com/magic and you can sign up for that. If you're listening to this after the fact, then just go there anyway, because we're going to add that to the class. And we're basically just adding more components to it to help in that area of niche selection, niche validation. And then from there, really getting the products validated. So this way here, you know what you're going to create for your first batch of products and really getting those 30 products launched. All right. So that's what I got for you here today. Give me a thumbs up, a like, smash the like button, like whatever you can do to give us a little bit of love here. That would be amazing. I would truly appreciate it. And let's go ahead and answer some questions here, Chris. I know we've got a bunch here. We could probably go for a few minutes, answer some questions. And if you do have any and we don't get them here, if you're watching this on the recording or replay, just drop them in the comments. We'll answer them later.
I wanted to let you know, Scott Firewolf proposed a new Rock Your Brand drinking game. He said, take a shot every time Scott says this way here. That sounds to me almost as dangerous as doing it every time I say, does that make sense? Or it depends. So I think you and I are probably going to skip that. But if anybody in the chat wants to play along, feel free to do that. Scott, we got a lot of questions about pay-per-click. and some of the ads type of stuff. And that seems to be where a lot of people are hung up. What are your thoughts in general about walking through this roadmap and having a digital store? So selling digital downloads on Etsy. What are your thoughts in general about that?
Nothing is different. Like nothing is different. Like the only thing that's different is the product, right? Like, so, you know, we can offer physical products and digital products, which I think if you have the option to do that, do it, right? Like, why not? So nothing changes. We still have to find the niche and validate that it has demand. Okay. And then once we do that, then we have to see, okay, are there products that are being sold in this niche? And if they are, is it going to hit my goals? Right. And then we just need to move through the roadmap from there. Like everything else is the same, right? We still need to, you know, build our internal, external email list, right? Still need to do that. Right. We still need to have great customer service, you know, getting that, like all that stuff is still the same. So nothing is really there's nothing different. It's all pretty much the same.
Yeah. And somebody had asked again, along those same lines, like, can ads be profitable for digital products? The answer is yeah. It just depends on the product. It depends on, you know, there it's not as much margin, right? Because it's essentially 100% margin. You don't have to worry about paying a supplier or anything. But it's just the price competitive nature of something like that can then be the issue. Nancy's Cottage Crafts. She said, I have a YouTube channel, and Nancy, you may want to go watch. It's either last week or 2 weeks ago. There's a live video we did where we talked about gnomes as a potential market. Yeah. And you may have actually asked a question that inspired that, but if you haven't gone back and watched those, go do that. She said, you know, I have gnomes. Among other things, I want to start an Etsy shop. I love creating gnomes and gnome related stuff. Do I start a shop and then build the email list? Yes. That's why it's below choosing your niche and creating your product line and all of those things in that roadmap, right? The roadmap is in the order that we would recommend to everybody that they follow, right? Those are the steps that we would execute on. Now, if you already have a shop, then yeah, go create the email list, but do the niche validation, right? Choose your niche, then create your shop and products, right? You're always going to be adding products. But once you have something to sell to someone, right? Then we can start running ads to that. And then we can start building the email list. And then we can really focus on customer service. And then if we are into it, we can do some of the holiday hacking stuff.
Yep. Hey, Chris.
Scott, along those, go ahead.
Yeah, 1 second. So Sandra brought up a good point and says cottage crafts, gnomes are not a niche. I love gnomes too. So I want to say, like, yeah, if you're just going after gnomes, there's probably not it's not targeting a specific niche. Now you could have a collector, right, of gnomes. Yeah, maybe. But the way we looked at it last week was like gnomes for gardeners or something, right? Like it's going to add that to it. I don't know that you're going to build, maybe you will, you got to do your research, but maybe you're going to build something that's, you know, people that are collecting gnomes are in a certain niche or whatever, but gardening was one of them. Fairy tale gardening was another like sub kind of
cottage core, which was a new word that I learned last week.
Yep.
Right. And I think that may be where we had that conversation. And it may be that there are enough people who are into like gnome pillows and gnome blankets and gnome culture.
Yep.
That you can create a niche there, right? Like you may find someone saying, I really like gnomes. I'm into gnomes, right? And so it possibly is a niche, but we have to use Etsy to validate that, right? Like a garden gnome itself would not necessarily be a niche. That's a product, right? Yep. But if we can use gnome images and gnome jokes and nomenclature, there you go. I think I just got the award for the worst dad joke of the week right there, nomenclature. To create, you know, a shop that's not focused around a single product, but is focused around the idea of gnomes and gnome culture, then it does become a niche. So we just have to validate that.
Right.
Scott, along those lines, so we talked about, you know, creating that product line.
Yeah.
At what point do you say that you have enough products that you can start to run Etsy ads?
Well, I think you start day one, right? Like, why are we waiting, right? Like, I want to get that thing out. I mean, let's get it up there, but hopefully you've done your research to know that product has demand, because you can advertise a product, but if it doesn't have demand, then I'm advertising it to what, right? Like,
but shouldn't I just advertise only my bestsellers? That's a question that I know is in the chat because I saw it 2 or 3 times.
Okay. There's different ways to look at this. So before you can have a bestseller, you need sales, right? So we need to test, right? So you may think that there's a product that's not going to be a bestseller, and then you advertise it and you're like, wow, that thing's a great seller now, right? So you can't really say that you're only going to advertise your best sellers. What you want to do is you want to look at like what has the most demand, what has the most appeal for your market that's going to lead someone in your store. We've heard this for years, right? A loss leader, like that is bringing someone in the store. They're advertising something to get someone in the store because they know they're going to probably add more things to their cart because their store is targeting a niche, right? So that's kind of what we want to look at. So no, I would say you don't want to just advertise all your products because, right? But you do want to do some testing. And really, it does come down to like what has the most appeal to your audience and the most demand. That's where I would start.
Yeah, and I know somebody had said, you know, I'm kind of scared to do it with new products because there's not proven demand from my store there yet. Well, again, if you're doing the product research side of this correctly, there is demand in the marketplace, right? And the only way to get a sale, like my rant earlier, right? We got to get eyeballs to get sales. We can either wait 6 months for Etsy to decide to give us our chance, or we can push it a little bit, push it real good with some Etsy ads and speed up that process. Now, just because the ads don't work for that specific product doesn't mean that we should delete it from our store and not go through the rest of that process, right? But maybe it's just that they don't work right now. And so my suggestion would be start testing it with everything, right? If you have one product in your store and you're creating more, you have enough products to run Etsy ads with. Now, should you start with one product at $5? Probably not, right? You can start it at 50 cents or at $1, right? To see what that starts to look like. And then as you add more products, scale up. But I think, Scott, in that example that you showed and that you share inside of the $64,000 roadmap, which is available at brandcreators.com/64K, 64, the letter K, big or little, doesn't really matter, right? I think we're advertising like 157 listings, something like that. It was a little over 100.
Actually, it's less now. You know, after the holidays, I think we're down to like 65 to 70.
Right. And in that store, there are 5 times that.
Yeah.
10 times that, like 7, maybe 6 or 7 times the amount of listings that we're advertising. Why? Well, some of them just don't work, right? Some of them
are seasonal.
Right. We're not going to advertise the Christmas stuff in January. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So keep that in mind. But any of the evergreen stuff, if it's returning the return that we're seeing, right, that 10.8 or whatever it was return, we're going to let those continue to run. And then we're going to use the rest of the budget that's left over because you aren't really spending that much money on Etsy, right? There's not millions of people searching for garden gnome pillows. No offense, Sandra, I think it was, right? Like there's not millions of people searching for that on Etsy. And if there is, then I think I found a new market. But you're going to be able to proportion that out. And somebody else had said, you know, how do I choose the budget proportions and those kinds of things? And inside of Etsy, you don't really do that. Etsy makes it very simple. Scott, this is something, and you may have mentioned it in that section. The other thing about Etsy ads that's super powerful is they tell you what people are typing in. There's nowhere else that you can get that information to say, hey, somebody bought your super awesome, really cool gnome pillow by typing in super awesome, really cool gnome pillow. And you see that once, you go, oh, that's pretty cool. You see that 10 times, you go, maybe I should change the title of that to super awesome, really cool gnome pillow, right? And you can't get that data anywhere else. Everbee doesn't give you that data. None of eRank doesn't give you that data. None of the tools can give you that data. Why? Because it's internal to Etsy. Everything that you see in the external tools are estimates. And yes, it's great directionality. But if Etsy is telling you what's literally leading to sales, the only way to get that data right now is to be running those ads. And if you're not doing that, your competitors are, right? And they're going to be able to start to optimize and reap those benefits long-term.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you, if you set up that email list, can you direct customers to your Aweber email from the Etsy page, or do you need to have a landing page outside of Aweber for this? You can, from within like the announcement, you can send them to sign up. But the way that this really works inside of Etsy and the way that Scott talked about setting this up is basically once they get a sale, once they buy something from you, they have the opportunity to opt into your email list right there. And that's going to be the best, lowest hanging fruit of anything. That's where you're going to get the vast majority of those things from, because they're saying, I bought something from you and I'd like to buy other things from you in the future. So when you set that up correctly, and it's literally a couple clicks inside of Aweber, they'll have you sign into your Etsy account and click like the, yeah, I consent to syncing the two things button. That's pretty much it in terms of the setup process. Once you do that, it's taken care of automatically in terms of the collection of the emails. And then you just have to figure out how you want to use them moving forward. Let's see. Thanks to this, I increased my ads budget. I love seeing that. I have a shop right now. I'm not running any ads. Shouldn't you run ads only on items that are proved to make sales? That's what we were just talking about. I told you I knew that question was in here.
It was.
You know, if I can only afford $1 a day, Scott, is it still worth running ads?
Totally. Yes. Like do $1 a day. Like I'm just saying $5 a day because I can kind of look at a $5 bill and I'm like, okay, this is like a, you know, a high-end cup of coffee. You know, I'm going to burn this today, right? But while I'm doing that, I'm actually getting a sale or two, and I'm also getting data. And like, so that's helping me in the future. And I'm always thinking about when that customer happens or when that customer acquisition happens, immediately I'm like, cool. I've got someone now that will get follow-ups from me. I've got people that are going to probably get notified from my store when I add a new product. So it's more than just a sale. It's more than just a sale. But yes, $1 a day, do it. Do what you can. That's what I would say.
Scott, we had some people asking about niche validation. And I'm going to summarize it just because it was earlier on. But essentially what they were saying is I'm struggling to find a niche because everything I'm looking at is saturated. So I asked the question, how are you determining that something is saturated? And they came back and they said, and I'm seeing something similar from Sandra, which is why I'm bringing this up. I'm seeing a lot of results, and I'm seeing that there are some top sellers that are, you know, there's 4 or 5 people that are already in the top sellers there that show up in 2 or 3 of the different keywords for my market. Mm-hmm. That is not necessarily competition, right? Here's the thing. If they have one product in your niche, that's not competition, right? They just got lucky. They showed you the way. They were the pioneer that took all the arrows in the back to show you that that market works. If we go build 4, 5, 10, 50, 100 products in that market, no one's ever going to think about them ever again. And even if we don't sell that t-shirt, right, we get all of the other demand from that market. So don't be worried about the total number of results that you see, right? One, because a lot of times the number of results is going to include a whole bunch of stuff that is utterly irrelevant, right? With something like gnomes, like in Sandra's example, right? I doubt that those don't include something related to gnomes, but that to me is not nearly as important. And seeing 1 or 2 people that might have like a gnome t-shirt is not nearly as important as looking at the breakdown of those results, right? If I go into that person's shop and everything they are selling is gnome related, then yeah, that's a competitor. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't capture a portion of the market. Now, if I have 2 niches that are side by side, I have gnomes and I have Keebler elves, right? And on the gnome side, there are 5 shops that sell every product imaginable for gnomes, and there's only 1 shop on the Keebler elf side. Does that influence my decision one way or another? If everything else is equal, then yeah, I'm going to go the easier route. And I'm going to go, you know, for tree, you know, elves making cookies in trees versus garden gnomes, right? But you usually don't find that situation, especially in Etsy. 99% of the time, the people that you see as the top sellers there just have one product that is really high demand. And if you click and look at their shop, a lot of times they are a product-based shop that just happened to create a design for gnomes, or happen to create a design for Keebler elves, or happen to create a design for floppy ragdoll cats, right? And if we go look at the rest of their stuff, they've got, it's right next to Coffee is my ADD t-shirt, which means we don't even have to think about them other than the fact that if they are the top seller in that market, we know that there's at least some demand there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's a lot of times people will look at that such at a high level, like gnomes, right? Not at the long tail or some of those other searches. And that's where the gold is. That's where the magic is, by the way. And actually, we're going to be going through this inside of our niche product magic workshop. Part of that training now, we're going to be doing it live, but we're going to be recording that and putting it as another video training inside of that class. So if you're interested in joining us, if you're listening to this or watching this before January 28th, then definitely head on over to brandcreators.com/magic. And then you'll be able to join us on that live, and you'll get access to the current training that's in there that will also go through this entire process. But if you're struggling and really want to understand niche validation more, then this Saturday, that's what we're going to be doing. And that training will be specific for that. That is what we're going to be focusing on and nothing else. And the goal is to really help clarify that and give people more confidence when choosing the niche. So definitely check that out. Chris, we got time for like 1 or 2 more quick questions if you have some, and then we're going to rock and roll on out of here.
Crazy D said, McDonald's and Arby's are right next to each other, but I will still open a restaurant in between them because people will still eat, right? Unless you want to be, you know, somebody competing with Arby's on meats. then yeah, I mean, and even still, if you have better meat, they're still going to eat there, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Scott, one last question. Actually, two last questions. We had a few different people ask about like products and sourcing and fulfillment. I want to address that really fast. If you and the first person that asked has been hanging out with us since 2016, so right, they're kind of in that like Amazon mindset a little bit. I'm willing to bet, right? So with Etsy, a lot of times the model is different, right? Most people that are selling in the Etsy marketplace are either making the products themselves or they're using a print on demand provider, meaning they create a design. And then once that design sells, they actually already have a person or a factory lined up on the back end to physically create that pillow, that blanket, that mug, that tumbler, whatever it is, right? Remember Tumblr this week. And so you don't really, there's not a ton of sourcing that goes into this other than the fact that when you decide to create a design for, let's say, a pillow, you're going to go to the print on demand providers and look at the different options and then choose which one you think is best to serve your customers, right? And I had an experience recently with some print on demand stuff where I did like a canvas print on demand, Scott, and because I'm a genius, didn't look at where it was shipping from. It shipped from Australia. Where do I live? South America. How long is that going to take to get here? Pretty much forever, right? I could have chosen the option to go with the US supplier, but the cost of shipping was a little bit higher. So I didn't even look at the country. I just went, oh, it's, it's the same canvas. Why would I pay more for shipping? Not realizing that it was going to literally be on a slow boat from Australia across all of the Pacific Ocean and probably a good portion of the Caribbean as well. But other than, just double checking some of those types of things, there's not a ton of sourcing that goes into this. The other question that we got, Scott, and I want your opinion on this. He said, if I'm not from the US and I'm not from a large European country, should I set my location to something more known or does it matter? To me, it doesn't really matter, right? Like we have some people, and I don't even think most people know that there's a location on the Etsy shop to begin with. And what really matters to the customer is where the product is coming from. So if you're manufacturing something, let's say you're in Ukraine, right? You're manufacturing something in Ukraine. Well, shipping that right now is going to take a good amount of time, right? Given global politics and what's going on there right now, right? But if you're doing print on demand and you're using something like Printify and it's coming from Ohio and they're buying it in Pennsylvania, they're going to get it in a reasonable amount of time. And so chances are they're probably not even going to look at that. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well, Scott.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that matters all that much. I think it matters where it's being shipped from that location. So like I know myself, and my wife has done this where she'll be looking to buy something and then she'll find out that it is shipping from Australia. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's going to take 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or it's going to cost more if it's not free shipping. So that could be a factor. So I think it does depend. But if you're doing print on demand and your provider is in the States and you're in Australia, well, then you can say that it's being shipped from the US. So they're going to get it, in a couple of days or however long it takes. So that's kind of how I would look at that. But no, I don't think it's a big deal, personally. But I do think it depends on, the business and where it is being shipped from, I think is more important.
Yeah, unless there's a specific reason that they care about your location, right? Like you're selling artisanal olive oil. Well, obviously no one's ever heard of Romanian olive oil. No offense to all of everybody who's listening in Romania, right? But like if you're in Spain or Italy, like, yeah, okay, I've heard of Italian olive oil, right? And so that would make a lot more sense. So if it's something that's a benefit, then yeah, like push it. But if it's not, then no one really cares. And I would be careful anytime you're saying, can I set my location? Should I use a VPN? Like any of that kind of stuff, because it's usually not even like a gray area of terms of service. It's usually a great way to get your account suspended because they're seeing inauthentic activity. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Hey, Richard, thanks so much for stopping by. Richard had to drop off, he said, but he did say that he'll be there for this weekend. So great, man. We'll see you then for sure. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Again, I will say this: if you guys have gotten any value from this at all, go ahead and smash the like button. If you are on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can go over to iTunes. You can let us know what was one thing that you took away from this episode. That would be amazing. And then lastly, I will say this: if you're interested in joining us on this live upcoming workshop for niche discovery and validation, go to brandcreators.com/magic. If you're listening to this after the 28th, go ahead and you can still go there and you're still going to be able to go through that training. It's just going to be a recording of it because that's the main reason why we're doing it. We're recording it to put it into this class. And then the other thing is, and I'll just recap this real quick, is the free roadmap. If you have not yet grabbed your copy of the 64K Etsy roadmap with a beautiful image there of myself and my wife cheering, go ahead and go to the link that you see on the screen, or if you're listening, it's brandcreators.com/64K, and you're going to be able to go through this entire workbook that also is accompanied by a video that will walk you through everything that I discuss. And this just really makes it easy to kind of go through, and you can even print it out, which I do recommend doing. So there you go. All right. So I think this was a pretty good stream today. I appreciate you guys showing up. Chris, thanks so much for hanging out with me and navigating all the comments and the chat and all that stuff. And yeah, guys, if you're on YouTube, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Facebook, love you too. And if you're on the podcast, we absolutely love you. That's where I originated from, or everything originated from originally. And we're still hanging there on the podcast. So thank you guys so much. So that's it, guys. That's going to wrap it up. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day, and we'll see you right back here on the next episode. Take care, guys.